Everybody, Chris from Florida here. I know we are all recharged and ready for the new year. That's a whole line of corporate bullcrap no one wants to hear. We actually wanted to talk about this because just to put awareness and to get my thoughts as a consumer out there, the new Mustang is not selling anymore. And the Mach-E actually outsold the Coupe. What is going on and why did this happen? And I'm going to give you my take. I wonder why I'm wearing a hat. It's because I have just bad hair right now. I just don't want to show it and I don't feel like fixing it. And also it's really cold down here. It's going to be like 22 degrees real feel, or actually less than that tonight. So it's freezing. Even though I got the heat on, actually I don't have the heat on right now. I take that back. I have the door open so the dogs can go outside. Outside of that though, it's just really cold. So if you're wondering why I look like a homeless person, it's because it's cold. I'm also not going to record in the garage like I originally was going to because it's freezing cold in there and I'm doing laundry. Basically new. Somehow the Mustang is just not selling, at least now, at least in the fourth quarter. When this last summer, it was the best selling sports car ever, again, as usual. Why? Why is the 7th gen, the S650, all of a sudden just tanking in sales? There's a multitude of reasons, but the other question is, why is the Mach-E selling all of a sudden when it was the worst selling vehicle that Ford had besides the Lightning? Because you can get a Mach-E for a pie. They're giving them away at my local Ford dealer. For instance, if you want to, you could pay about $1.99 a month for one. That's how cheap the leases are on those. Whereas there's no lease deals on a Mustang coupe. Even an EcoBoost, I think you're in the 300s for one. For a base model EcoBoost. That's pretty much it. The incentives are just fantastic for a Mach-E. I would never buy one. It's not a real Mustang. But if I was an SUV buyer and I was sitting there and I'm like, you know what? I don't really like the electric part. I don't like that it's called a Mustang, but I can get it like half the cost of anything else I could purchase. I'm going to take it, especially while everyone's kind of hoping and waiting to see if the economy recovers faster or better under the new administration taking over in a couple weeks. I mean, that's pretty much it. That's why the Mach-E is outselling. It's just Ford is just stellar with the interest rates or the just deals for the leases specifically. That's why you're noticing like a lot of the base model Mach-E's are pretty much just getting gobbled up, is because you can get them for $1.99. And they're not having that type of sales on the higher trims like the GT and the Premium, at least in my area. And I live in the state of Florida, and Florida is one of the biggest selling markets for cars. The higher trims of the Mach-E aren't really selling at all near me, but the low trims, you can't find one. They're gone. And that just, comes to show. The market is deciding that people want cheap. Taking the hat off, why is the Mustang Coupe, the real Mustang, why is it no longer selling when it was the #1 selling vehicle last summer? A lot of reasons, and I think that the main reason is pretty obvious. It's the price. It's way too expensive for what you're getting. $46,000 is what I priced out a 2025 Mustang GT. A boat with a tiny little wing, tiny little wheels, nothing special about it. Literally like a good vehicle, but you're gonna have to do a lot of work if you want to make it a drag car, and you'd have to do a lot of work to make it a track car, probably a ton of work to make it a track car because it's so soft. That's the problem. It's way too expensive for what Ford wants, and of course there's no incentives on it. The only incentives on the Mustang are the EcoBoost, and you're getting, I think it's like $359 a month for an EcoBoost, which is a stepping stone car, and there's nothing wrong with stepping stone cars. It's just people want the 5.0. The 5.0 used to be, back in the day, used to be 32 to 35 grand starting, and now you're at 46 grand without destination. That's insane work. They need to put down the pipe, man. I think that if the Mustang was priced lower, I think people would buy it, and I think Ford unfortunately knows that where you're gonna go. There's no one else. Camaro's gone. At certain price points, it makes sense to get a Mustang over a Corvette, but we'll get to the price in a second. At other price points, it's better to get a Corvette over a Mustang. They're kind of content with that, right? And then you have Dodge is kind of coming back. It looks like they finally got Tim Kuniskis back, and they got rid of Carlos Tavares. I'm hoping that there's some competition and they can bring back the brand, because competition breeds success for the consumers. And you know that Ford knows this, because when they launched the S650, it was a compelling price compared to the Camaro, which was the 2024 model year. Now the Camaro is clearly gone, and I don't see it coming back the way we want it to come back, especially if you saw that there was some leaked email with Mary Barra that she is doubling down on the EV strategy or the strategy that they've been working on for 2024. 2025 is going to be a continuation of it. And so since that is the case, there's no Camaro coming anytime soon. Nothing with a V8. And a Camaro should always be a V8 sports car with 2 doors. Like that's what a Camaro has always been. And it seems like GM doesn't care because they're just like, go buy a Corvette. So outside of Camaro depressing news, let's get back to the Mustang. So Mustang has no skin in the game, and since everything's gone, they're like, hey, we'll jack the price up, make you pay more. And that's obvious. That's what they've done. It's getting to the point where I said that the base model is a better value. I'm honestly going to tell you that the premium is a better value now because it's about a $2,000 difference and you get leather-cooled seats. And I mean, it's crazy work what they're asking, and I wouldn't justify it personally. Now a fully loaded GT, a GT, mind you, a GT that contends with the Camaro SS, barely maxed out with the Magna Ride system and performance pack and the performance exhaust, is now about $62,000. That is crazy work, man. In that range, you can get something very special, which is a GT350. You can get a ZL1. You can get a C7. You can get a pre-used C8, maybe. Those are, I hate to say it, more special than just the 5.0. You have the Dark Horse. I think the Dark Horse, I'm going to do a review of one, but the Dark Horse to me is kind of a dumb name. It seems like they all sat in rooms and young kids, they want screens, technology, and something cool like Dark Horse. When in reality, I'm a millennial. I'm the last year of a millennial, but the person, like my wife, is a Gen Z. Gen Z is into classic cars more than any generation. That's actually been a proven statistic. Gen Z is probably looking, going, we just want something cool and something fun to drive. It's pretty much what they're thinking. The other part is the economy is not the best for Gen Z or even millennials. It's obvious that they focus group Dark Horse, thought it would be cool, and it's obvious it's a big failure. That should have been a Mach 1. I honestly think they should have just not even done it, and I think that all that should have been carried over to the GT Performance Pack, and they should have just worked on a Shelby GT350 or an actual Mach 1, and then have a GT500, which we know there's a GT500 coming. And I think that's also part of it. The people that have a lot of money, they're kind of waiting for a GT500 anyways. Pricing is obviously a problem because the Dark Horse, like I said, it's not really that cool. It looks good. There's nothing denying that, but it's just like at certain Dark Horse prices, you're approaching C8 territory, and C8, I hate to tell you, is way more special than any Mustang. At least any Mustang outside of like a Shelby, at least in my opinion. I like the S650. I have no qualms with it. I think it looks good with the performance pack wing and some good wheels on it. I think that it handles great for a Mustang, better than my wife's S550. I don't feel the connection to the road like I do in my Camaro. That all comes down to the fact that the Mustang's a $4,000 pound pig on a 2005 rental car platform that has been heavily engineered to the point where I don't know if I can push it any further after this. It needs a new platform. It needs to lose a lot of weight. That's something they couldn't fix within the 3 years that they probably spent on that car. As cool as it looks, it's not exactly a beautiful car. Like, I think it looks good, but it's not beautiful. I don't look at it and go, that's a photogenic car. A lot of the colors for the S650 aren't really that special. The Vapor Blue looks kind of cool. Carbonized Gray looks good. The Dark Horse Ember Blue was pretty cool, but you're spending a lot of money to get that color, and at that point, you're better off just getting a C8. We go back to square one, which is the price and the incentives. When I look at the S650, I think it's a great looking vehicle, and I would upgrade my wife's car any day to it because I like the sound of the Coyote, especially with a Corsa exhaust on it. It's not a gorgeous car like a C8 is. It's not a photogenic car. Now, it's a good looking car, but is it beautiful? Like, if I looked at the S550 refresh, I say that's one of the most beautiful Mustangs ever designed, besides a good Shelby GT350 or even a GT500. Those are beautiful cars that you can just sit there and appreciate the design and the wind tunnel and the engineering aspects behind the designs. And the S650, you're not really seeing that. There's not a lot of slashes and hashes. There's not a lot of beauty marks. It just kind of looks like a block. To me, I like it, but I think that I like the S550's design a little bit more, personally. I think that the refresh looks beautiful. When you get over to the interior, if you're coming from an S550, it's got the same door handle, the same door pull, the same door grabbing points as the S550. It's the same exact part, it's the same exact everything, same exact window switch gear. The only difference is they kind of changed the shape of the door frame, or like the door pad. That's not enough to ask that kind of pricing for it. There's some that say that the seats are a little bit wider, but they still look the exact same seats, the same center console, the same shifters, the same transmissions, just some slight tweaking to them. The MT82 is another sore spot for manual owners. They don't like the MT82. A lot of people don't. I think it might be a little bit overblown, but I personally don't like the feel of the MT82. I think it's too squishy. It's not very direct. That's one big problem is with enthusiast-wise, they're not going to buy it because they want the Tremec. And the only way to get the Tremec is to buy the overpriced Dark Horse. The next part is, like I said, in the interior is the screens just look like corporate Ford just said, hey, put screens in it. That's not cool. And it's going to get old very quickly. Like, you look at the Mustang interior of the S550, it's a timeless interior in my opinion. I think it's going to age really well. You look at the Corvette like the C7, I think it ages pretty well. Outside of some technical things. And then even the Camaro 6, I think the interior will age very well. People argue that it won't. I think it will personally. You look at the C8, it's going to age very well interior-wise. I hate to tell you, I do not think the S650's interior is going to age very well. I think that since it's so focused on technology, when there's clearly a better system that Ford makes, it's on Sync 4, whereas their newest system, the Google design system, is clearly better. It's going to age pretty bad. And that's my argument. I think the steering wheel of the S650 is fantastic. I love the thickness. I love the weight. I love the actual design of it. I think it's fantastic. I think my only critique, I think it could be a little bit smaller, but it's also a big car. So maybe it goes hand in hand with it compared to the Camaro, which is a smaller car and feels more nimble. The other part of this situation is it's winter. Right now, even C8s are sitting. Nobody's buying sports cars. You gotta realize, not everybody lives in Florida. Not everybody lives in California. Not everybody lives in Texas. And throughout the South. There's still people that live in Ohio, Pennsylvania. There's still people that live in New York, New Jersey. There's these other states outside of the South and the West and Texas. Those other states, they have winter. They're not buying sports cars right now. They're not interested. There's also, of course, the economic factors that younger generations don't have as much buying power as they used to, because the dollar is no longer as much. I can get into that argument all day. But that's also another factor. The people that have money and don't have to worry about it are waiting for higher trims of the Mustang. Like, there's a bunch of different things. 90% of the problem is the price. Like, if I was the average customer, someone that's not into cars, that wants a 5.0, and maybe I'm retired or maybe I'm younger, and I'm like, you know what, I looked at it, the Mustang's pretty practical, which it is. I want to get a 5.0, goes to look at a 5.0, and it starts at $46,000. I wouldn't buy that. That's the problem. The price. There's other factors that are smaller, but I think the price is the main reason. And I think that, will Ford drop it? I don't know. Also, there's also some arguments that people are waiting for it to be tunable. I think that's like 10% of the buying base. I think most Mustang buyers buy it stock, maybe put an exhaust on a cold air intake and call it a day, maybe some personalized stuff to it. But for the average customer, they're not boosting these cars. They're not boosting their cars. Like, a good argument, but I think that's like a 10% base right there. The average person are just looking at the price and going, I ain't paying that. I'm going to keep the car stock forever type deal. And then the other part of the situation is maybe Ford doesn't care. Maybe they're going with the Camaro 6 approach where it's less volume, more profit per car. And obviously that would make sense. Maybe they're thinking, we're the only game in town. What are you going to do? Buy a Camaro? There's no such thing anymore. What are you going to do? Go buy a Challenger? Well, good luck having like 18 recalls as soon as you pick it up. And which is also the reason why the Challenger's now sitting, is because the price. And also probably Stellantis' quality, but we'll see if that gets fixed with Tim Kuniskis on the wheel. So that's why I think the S650 kind of fell from grace. Winter, economics, price. 2024 was at least a compelling price. Now 2025, they're way outside their league. So let me know what you think. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you agree. Chris from Florida out.